As is well known, Kebi has grown from an ordinary person with no foundation to a great general's strength in just 2.5 years with 200 times the effort. It can be inferred from this that in the world of pirates, even ordinary people can have great general strength as long as they can put in 200 times the effort. Isn't this more fragrant than deep blue? When the protagonist has more time than others, hard work can create miracles. After the summit of the war, the selection meeting for the general was held. Loya stood up and looked around the big shots. I work 200 times harder than you, is it reasonable for me to become a general? The meeting room quieted down. The two new generals have already been designated as Yixiao and Huangmu, and which round will receive the young Loya? Marshal Red Dog's face darkened. Loya, it's difficult for us to deal with you like this, difficult to handle. Loya grinned and grabbed the corner of the table with her hand. Then don't do it, lift the table. P.S. With 1.65 million words, we have completed the high-quality book, Pirates. Master Kaido, online teaching. Please rest assured to read it. Keywords of the novel. Pirate. Sun. Law Wang, I am determined. No pop-ups, pirate. Sun. Law King, I'm done. Download the complete set of TXT, pirate. Sun. Law King, I'm done. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. I want to stand out. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 1. I want to stand out. Fist bone. Honesty. In the picture, Kebi risked his life with a full blow, blasting away a rock arm even larger than a warship from the middle. Crouching slot, this punch is super powerful. Kebi Nyo Bai, Pein. In just 2.5 years, growing from an ordinary sea soldier to a general's strength is the value of 200 times effort. So Kebi is the protagonist. According to the information provided in the animation, the daily training volume of Navy headquarters soldiers is 2,000 push-ups, 100 rope climbs, 200 laps of long distance running on the training ground, and physical combat training. If multiplied by 200 times, the brain will be overloaded. Unfortunately, Lieutenant General Kapu. Sakaski. Why are you the only ones back, Cap? Kebi. I've stuck him in a new world. Hahaha, the brothers upstairs almost laughed at me. Cough cough, talk about something serious. Since Kebi is capable, does it mean we can replicate Kirby's miracle of growth if we cross into the world of pirates and put in 200 times the effort? That makes a lot of sense. 2.5 years old, this is not 10 times or 100 times stronger than the protagonists of those novels that have been cheating. If you just work hard, what system would you need to add? So who's going to explore the way? The mud truck is ready. As Kebi's strength skyrocketed, the recently dormant major pirate forums became lively again, with a plethora of sarcastic remarks. In the year 1515 of the Haiyuan calendar, there are still 5 years left until Luffy sets sail. Donghai, Shell's town. Dang. 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 The sound of a bell on the coast can be determined by its steady frequency that there is no danger, so there is only one reason for the bell ringing. The Navy is back. The warships belonging to the 153rd branch of the Navy are approaching the port, and this time they are going out to fight against the Black Cat pirates who are plundering the nearby islands. The residents of Shell's town have left their homes and gathered on both sides of the street, waiting for the heroes to return. The Navy represents stability. Every time the Navy returns from an expedition, the residents of the small town warmly welcome them, not only because of their respect and trust in the Navy, but also because they have their families in the Navy. However, the expected triumphant return did not occur. Colonel Rod, the highest commander of the 153 branch, walked at the forefront of the team, half of his face wrapped in bandages, his left arm disappeared without a trace, and his clothes were still covered in large blood stains. The condition of other sailors was also poor, with wounds and bandages covering their heads, bodies, limbs, and entire bodies, supporting each other as they advanced. At the end were several wooden carts carrying disabled soldiers who were unable to move alone, as well as bodies piled up like cargo wrapped in white cloth. The gruesome scene is unbearable to look at directly. It's so tragic. Many young people, upon seeing this scene for the first time, instantly lost their blood on their faces, and their longing for becoming a sea soldier disappeared without a trace, leaving only deep fear in their hearts. They finally understood the old man's advice. When in the Navy, one will die. Compared to the panic of young people, the behavior of the elderly is much calmer. In the past decade, they have seen similar scenes more than once. Only so few people have returned. Hey, pirates are becoming more and more rampant. Damn it, it's all thanks to damn Roger. If I remember correctly, the branch deployed nearly 100 troops this time, but less than half of the sea soldiers who returned alive in front of me. Since Roger began the era of pirates, even the East China Sea, which symbolizes peace, has been ravaged by pirates. Every day, countless villages and people are burned, killed, and looted. The sacrifice of the Navy has become the norm. The street is quiet. The returning sailors hung their heads and had no face to face the welcoming people, while their eyes carried an indelible fear. The experience of defeating the pirates echoed in my mind like a nightmare. The pirates recognized their movements and ambushed them. Especially the ghostly and elusive Captain Crow, who even had Colonel Rod's arm chopped off by the enemy. This is a massacre. Suddenly, the team stopped. More than 10 civilians stood in front, including elderly people with gray hair, young women who had just gotten married, and naive children. Everyone's face was incredibly pale, with a strong sense of unease in their eyes. The old woman squeezed in front of Rod, her wrinkled hands tightly clenched together, and asked hopefully, "Colonel Rod, may I ask, why haven't you seen my son Jamie? And my husband Cole? Has Hanny brother come back yet?" More than a dozen people were asking each other about their family's situation. Even though they had already guessed the cruel answer in their hearts, they still refused to give up their last glimmer of hope. Colonel Rod's gaze was dim. "Bring them over." The cart for stacking corpses was pulled over, and each piece of white cloth had a corresponding name. The white cloth with Jamie written on it was only the size of a basketball, and it contained Jamie's remains. We were ambushed by pirates, and Lieutenant Jamie was hit by the enemy's shells. His body only recovered these. Pop, the old woman collapsed to the ground in despair, holding the package. 10 minutes later. The naval troops continued to advance, returning to the branch fortress at the end of the street until everyone disappeared from sight, and the street was still filled with mournful cries. Early the next morning, the 153 branch issued a notice to recruit new soldiers. Food tavern, entrance. Loya carried her backpack. Loya. The owner of the tavern, Lily Xiang, holding her daughter, couldn't help but shout out to Loya, speaking with a hint of inexplicable fear. She thought that Loya would feel intimidated when she saw the brutal defeat of the Navy, but she didn't expect Loya to hesitate at all. "Are you really going to become a Navy?" "That's right." Loya smiled and nodded, looking at the upset mother and daughter, and thanked them from the bottom of his heart. "Sister Lilixiang, thank you for taking care of me. Xiao Lilixiang, thank you too, your sweet rice and vegetable roll is very delicious." Lily Xiang's expression was gloomy, and she wanted to persuade Loya to stay. Compared to working in a navy, staying in a tavern and living a peaceful life was not bad. After all, there is a naval base on the island, and no matter how arrogant the pirates are, they are unlikely to invade this peaceful town. But she has no reason to stop. Loya is just her employee. Brother Loya. Li Xiang didn't have so much scruples. She jumped out of her mother's arms, grabbed Loya's pants, and her eyes were wide open. "Can you stay? Both Li Xiang and Mom really like you. Li Xiang, my brother also likes you very much." Loya squatted down and rubbed Li Xiang's head with a smile, his corner of the eye secretly glancing at Li Xiang, who was hesitant to speak, as if trying to explain something. What does it mean? Unexpectedly not blushing or hearing red. Hee, laughing to death, actually I don't have that much thought about you. 3 months ago, Loya traveled to this chaotic world dominated by pirates and was reborn on a young man who died in a shipwreck and was washed up on the island by the sea. Due to being too hungry, he fainted at the entrance of the tavern. Fortunately, he was taken in by the kind-hearted owner Lily Xiang, and in order to make a living, he voluntarily stayed at the tavern to work. A 3-month career as a bartender was enough for him to understand the face of the world from the words and phrases of his guests. World government, Pirate King Roger, Kingdom of Goya. This is the world of the Pirate King. If you remember correctly, the town where he is now in Shields is the place where Luffy and Soren met. Xialixiang is the lovely girl who sent sweet rice and vegetable roll to Soren. And Lily Xiang's mother Lily Xiang, her husband used to be a sailor, but died at the hands of pirates many years ago, so she had a natural resistance to joining the navy. 3 months of day and night together, there will be some emotional connection. Loya also wants to stay. He is not particularly handsome, he can only be said to have straight facial features and is very durable. However, in this world where crooked melons and jujubes are rampant, his straight facial features have already surpassed 95% of his competitors, making it easy to win the favor of ladies. No matter how difficult it is, one can still develop feelings over time. He still has this confidence. But if a man is born between heaven and earth, how can he live under his skirt in melancholy for a long time? Loya put aside her thoughts of eating soft meals and comforted the little girl. Don't worry, Li Xiang. Brother is just going to become a sailor and will come back to visit you. But Li Xiang recalled yesterday's tragedy and couldn't help but worry. She was afraid that Loya's brother and father, like those dead sailors, would be brutally killed by pirates. Being in the navy is really dangerous. Seeing that Loya had made up her mind to leave, Lily Xiang thought of her deceased husband and gradually lost control of her emotions, becoming angry with Loya for the first time. Why? 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 Why can't you men live a stable life if you all want to become a navy? Miss Lily Xiang. Loya took out a pack of cigarettes from her arms, shook one out of her mouth, lit it with a match, and took a deep breath. The burning and shining cigarette but illuminated his ambition. I want to stand out. There is no lofty reason, nor is there a persistent pursuit of justice. Whether in the past or present life, what he wants from beginning to end is only the same. His mother stand out. He wants money, power, beautiful women, social status, and respect, rather than being a bartender constantly being called around and staying at the bottom of society. He is a man. He doesn't want people to look down on him. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Strive 200 times harder. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Strive 200 times harder. The 153rd Naval Branch Fortress. New Recruit Registration Office. Name: Loya. Age: 17 years old. Why join the Navy? To stand out. The lieutenant's pen was resting on the paper, and he looked up at the young man in front of him, nodding slightly imperceptibly. A very common reason. But few people speak frankly. He had an impression of the young man. About 3 months ago, the merchant ship that the young man's family was on was robbed by pirates, and only the young man was lucky enough to survive. He has been working in the tavern in town ever since. There's no big problem with the background. The conditions for recruiting new soldiers in the branch are not so strict, as long as they are not wanted criminals and in good health, especially since the branch has suffered heavy losses and urgently needs to replenish fresh blood. Approved. Thank you, sir. Munka Military Chow, take the new recruit Loya to familiarize yourself with the base. Yes. Munka responded with a loud voice. It was not until then that Loya noticed the strong man standing on the side. Monka. Axe Emperor Monka. A burly figure close to 3 meters tall, with a solemn and serious face that does not speak or smile, looks intimidating. Loya estimated that with her small physique, as long as she was lightly punched by the opponent, she would have to lie on the ground and call for an ambulance. Body shape is an absolute advantage until there is no force beyond common sense. Hiss. Is this the oppressive feeling of the Axe Emperor? Munka came to Loya, seemingly wanting to show some friendliness, and pulled a smile that was even uglier than crying. It's quite scary. Newcomer, come with me. Yes, Monka military chow. Loya straightened her waist and had a full attitude. Since you are here to join the army, you must have the appearance of a soldier. Moreover, Monka at this time has not yet been blackened into a future dictator, nor does it have the power and authority of that time. Having received the new recruits, Loya followed behind Monka with bedding and a bucket, familiarizing herself with the general situation of the fortress. 2 columnar defense towers, for accommodation and logistics high-rise buildings, and several open training grounds make up the 153rd Naval Branch. Including logistics, the total number of personnel in the entire branch is only over 200, of which the number of formally established naval soldiers is only over 100, and most of them have been damaged in battle. It can only be described as shabby. However, this is reality. The backbone of the Navy is concentrated on great routes, especially the naval headquarters, with the aim of safeguarding the safety of the Holy Land of Maria. As for the Navy stationed in the 4 seas, not only are their forces scattered throughout the 4 seas, but their combat effectiveness is far inferior to that of the Navy on the Great Navigation Route. Even the great pirates, with a bounty of less than 20 million yuan, are difficult to suppress. Dormitory, restaurant, entertainment area. With a general understanding of the fortress layout, Monka brought Loya to the new recruit training ground. Dozens of reserve new recruits are undergoing physical training, but their mood is quite low, and they can't even shout slogans loudly. The impact of defeat has just begun. Monka clenched his fist, bulging veins on his arm, showing both hatred towards the pirate and unwillingness to be incompetent. It took him a long time to release his fist. Starting from tomorrow morning, you will be conducting basic training here. In the afternoon, it will be miscellaneous time and someone will lead you. Monka explained the precautions. The newly recruited soldiers are all the lowest level miscellaneous soldiers, and in addition to necessary training, their main tasks are logistics work such as cleaning and hygiene. That's just doing odd jobs. Even the back of the uniform is printed with the word "Conquering Pirates." The miscellaneous soldiers are not yet worthy. Only when the miscellaneous soldiers can complete basic training such as physical fitness, will they be promoted to 3rd class. At that time, they no longer need to be responsible for miscellaneous tasks, but the novice protection period will also disappear. Going to the battlefield. Loya listened attentively to Monka's explanation. The training programs for new recruits are basically physical fitness training, including 200 push-ups, 200 sit-ups, 10 laps of rope climbing, and 20 laps of school field long-distance running. I see, it happens to be 1/10 of the amount of naval training in our headquarters. Loya has a clear idea in her mind. He has a certain understanding of the naval training content of the Navy headquarters. Before crossing over, due to Kebi's explosive strength, he chatted with well-spoken netizens, including discussing the training programs of the Navy headquarters. Perhaps this is the reason why he traveled through time. I'm sorry, he shouldn't be talking too much. Monka military chow. Loya faced Monka, pointed to the new recruits and training facilities on the training ground, and her eyes lit up. Can I join the training now? Now. Monka was stunned for a moment. It is normal for newly recruited soldiers to be emotionally aroused, but there are not many who require formal training upon arrival. Interesting. If you think the training for new recruits is easy, then you are completely wrong. Normally, miscellaneous soldiers need to train for at least 3 to 6 months in order to complete basic training and be promoted to formal third-class soldiers. Do you want to make a name for yourself when you come up here? First, ask the pirate if they agree with their swords and guns. Newcomer became interested and wanted to see Loya's potential. With a stern expression, he said, "Sure, but I must remind you that as long as you join the training, you must never quit midway. Do you understand?" "Understood." Loya took a deep breath and immediately ran into the training ground, following at the end of the new recruit team, circling around the training ground for a long run. A total of 20 laps. The track of the training ground is a standard 500-meter lap, and 20 laps is 10 kilometers. Even if the average physical fitness of the world is far beyond that of the Earth, it is not easy to complete. "Hey, newcomer." The new recruits noticed Loya, who were actually all miscellaneous soldiers, but joined the branch 2 or 3 months earlier, making them the elderly, who were about to graduate among the new recruits. "Brothers, keep going." "Understood." The new recruits are working together to accelerate their pace, intending to give them some intensity, which is one of their few pleasures. The speed of training the formation gradually accelerated, and Loya, who was already hanging at the end of the team, watched helplessly as she fell behind. The distance quickly widened. "Xia Ma Wei." Loya was not surprised, silently maintaining the rhythm and running. Wherever there are people, there are rivers and lakes. It is common for the elderly to bully new people everywhere, and this level of bullying is not even considered bullying, at most it can be seen as showing off. If you can't keep up with the training, then you're useless. In the first lap, Loya was very relaxed. On the third lap, Loya's forehead was sweating. In the fifth lap, the training formation appeared behind Loya, completely swinging him around and shouting slogans as they passed him. 1, 2, 3 to 4. The slogans echoing through the training ground shook Loya's ears. 15th lap. The new recruits have completed their lap training and are standing at the edge of the training ground for a brief rest, while also watching the new recruits' jokes. On the runway, there was only Loya left, crawling at a slow pace like a turtle, trying her best with every step. "Ha ha ha," Loya gasped heavily, her lungs burning with a burning pain, and her clothes were already soaked in sweat, sticking wet to her skin. Feeling uncomfortable, even painful. His current body is just an ordinary 17-year-old boy. Although young and powerful, he was trained according to the standards of naval soldiers from the beginning, which placed a great burden on his body. My legs were as heavy as lead, and my vision gradually blurred. I could still vaguely hear teasing sounds coming from nearby. Ignoring external interference. At this moment, there was only one thought in Loya's mind. Run. This is not just a training session, it also relates to his future and whether he can replicate Kebi's miracle. Pop it. Suddenly, Loya's head went dizzy, and then her knees softened, and her thin and weak body fell to the sand. Newcomers can't hold on anymore. The onlookers immediately came to their senses. Under normal circumstances, the training intensity for newcomers who have just joined is not very high. It is considered good to be able to run 10 laps during the first long-distance running training, and the instructor will not be too harsh on newcomers. There must be an adaptation process. They all came this way, with a stepwise increase in training volume until they could keep up with the training intensity of formal sailors, but even after training for several months and running 20 laps, they were still sweating profusely. The newcomers were able to complete 15 laps at once, which exceeded their expectations. Hey, look at it. Just when everyone thought the newcomer couldn't hold on and needed to rest, they propped up their bodies with both hands and gradually got up. Keep running. The playful smile gradually faded away. This guy is not bad. Someone muttered, and the others nodded in agreement. It's really good. Newcomer military Chow, what is his name? Loya. Ah, I remember, he's a bartender working at a food tavern. Damn it, I envy you so much. Even if you look handsome, you can still spend time with Mrs. Lilixiang day and night. Brothers, for the upcoming training, give the newcomers more intensity. This is necessary. In this world of information backwardness, going to a tavern for a drink during leisure time is almost everyone's greatest hobby. And the gentle and beautiful owner of the tavern, Mrs. Lily Xiang, is the dream lover of many sailors, so she has a deep affection for Loya who resides in the tavern. Hee hee. We need to let new people know that society is dangerous. In the evening, in the dormitory building. Munkao lifted the squeezed Loya and threw him onto the dormitory bed, startling the other newcomers in the dormitory. This is only the first day. As Monka left, the roommates immediately gathered around, with one of them holding a broomstick and carefully poking Loya's buttocks. Hello. Don't make a fuss. Loya lay on the bedding, twisting her hips in protest. The basic physical training that a new recruit can complete in half a day took him a whole day, and at this moment, his soul was almost floating out of the sky. What a tiring experience. Whew. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief and went back to their respective beds. It's good if they don't die. They don't want to collect bodies on the first day they join the Navy. Time passed little by little, and the excited newcomers were boasting and falling asleep one after another, looking forward to tomorrow's arrival. Soon, there was a sound of snoring. Late at night, approaching 12 o'clock. Loya suddenly opened her eyes, bounced up from the bed, looked around the sleeping snoring roommates, and came to the balcony alone, her lips moving slightly. The world. The surrounding space stretches outward, quickly constructing an independent world of nothingness, as if entering the starry sky of the universe. Subsequently, a series of training facilities emerged in this void, including sand dunes, runways, and climbing ropes. It's exactly the same as the new recruit training ground. As I expected. Loya's spirit lifted and she dragged her tired body into the training ground. This special independent space is a special power awakened by him after crossing over, capable of recording and replicating the external environment. Unfortunately, it can only simulate things related to training. After 3 months of exploration, Loya has gained a preliminary understanding of the function of the world. In simple terms, it is a pure training space. Has nothing to do with a stunt double. The world will replicate the training process he has gone through, so it is during the day that he puts in all his effort to complete basic training. It seems very useless. But time within the world is completely stagnant, and no matter how long he stays here, there will be no change in the outside world's time. That is to say, he can practice more in the world, giving him more training time and putting in more sweat to improve his own strength than others. This is the strength of the world. However, maintaining the operation of the world requires spiritual strength. 3 months ago, when I first traveled through that time, the world could only last for 1 hour, but now it can last for almost 3 hours. Loya firmly believed in her heart that as she continued to grow stronger, the duration of the world would also continue to extend, thus achieving a miracle 200 times harder than others. Put in 200 times the effort. Kebi can do it, I have no reason not to. I also want to become a naval general. Work hard, this is the most likely and currently the only way for him to stand out. If opportunities are presented in front of him and he is still negligent, he looks down on himself. Loya stepped forward with both feet. Run forward. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Volume, roll up. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Volume, roll up. In the early morning, the sky was hazy and bright. The gathering whistle awakened the sleeping newcomers. Including Loya, yesterday the branch only recruited 6 new recruits, which is less than half of the last recruitment. The number of new recruits in the next few days will only be even smaller. The residents of Shell's town were frightened. The number of people is small, everything is simplified. The welcome ceremony can be saved as much as possible. Most of the other matters were explained yesterday. The most important thing now is to keep up with the training progress and become a formal Marine soldier as soon as possible, providing combat power for the branch. The East China Sea is not peaceful, and the sea area guarded by the 153 branch may be plundered by pirates at any time, just like the previously rampant Black Cat pirates. Having sufficient troops is the only way for the branch to protect civilians. Downstairs of the dormitory. While the other newcomers were still dawdling, Loya had already come downstairs in high spirits and stood at the edge of the queue, waiting for the instructor's instructions. "Look, it's that kid." The new recruits secretly glanced at Loya, feeling a bit uneasy and uncertain. "Surprisingly able to get up. You have an excellent physique. Strange, it feels like he has lost a lot of weight." Yesterday, Loya trained with them and their performance was obvious to all. The most memorable thing for them was that Loya's training volume was no less than theirs. Normally, at this moment, Loya should be lying in bed in pain, her muscles sore and unable to get up. However, Loya's waist was straight, and her eyes were fierce like that of a beast. "This kid is good." Gollum. Loya's eyes lit up with green light, and her withered belly let out waves of low growls. Last night, he practiced for 3 more hours in the world and was exhausted to the death. However, after leaving the world, his fatigue and pain disappeared completely, and his body returned to its optimal state. This is another function of the world. The world will use its muscles and fat to heal pain and fatigue, and compared to yesterday, it has lost at least 3 pounds. The most intuitive feeling is hunger. He's so hungry that he wants to swallow the stone. But when you become a soldier, the first thing you need to learn is patience. Quickly, the other few newcomers ran out of the dormitory building under the scolding of the instructor, yawned and entered the queue, heading together to the training ground. The morning training content is very monotonous. Military posture training, lasting for half an hour. Loya straightened her waist and looked ahead. In less than 5 minutes, her forehead began to sweat and her whole body began to itch and ache. Standing in a military posture is not difficult, but it is definitely not an easy task to stand up well. Loya recalled her military training experience during her school years, and remembered that she was only required to stand in a military posture for 10 minutes, so she had to find ways to cheat and play tricks. The military posture is so terrifying, it tests both willpower and physical strength. The 153 branch is just a small branch, and the requirements are not so strict. While Loya was desperately lifting her anus and chest, the other new recruits had already skillfully avoided the sight of the instructor and made small moves to be lazy. The instructor also noticed the small movements of the new recruits, which were all left over from his play. How could they be fooled? However, he chose to turn a blind eye and turn a blind eye. The 153 branch is just one of the many naval branches in the East China Sea, and the physical fitness of the recruited new recruits is average. If the training intensity is too high, it may even crush the new recruits. In addition, when these newcomers perform missions in the future and witness the brutality of pirates, they will naturally understand the importance of training. "Hey, this kid." The instructor saw Loya's standard standing posture and the beads of sweat all over her head, and raised the corner of her mouth in some surprise. "Sweating so much indicates that you haven't been lazy. He's a good seedling." Pop. The instructor's palm hit Loya's perky buttocks with a snap. "You're standing well." Loya's chrysanthemums tightened. "That's too much, why are everyone interested in his butt?" The sun gradually rose, and the military posture training came to an end. Under the guidance of the instructor, the new recruits went to the restaurant for a meal. All kinds of bread, barbecue, fish steak, seafood fried rice, vegetable salad, mashed potatoes, and tea drinks. In terms of diet, each branch will not mistreat the sailors. Not only is there a wide variety of ingredients, but there is also no limit to the amount of food that can be eaten. Conquering pirates requires a desperate effort, and in situations with high casualties, withholding food can easily lead to mutiny. That's it. Loya's eyes lit up with green light, and like a starving ghost, she stacked the pieces of meat on the plate, at least 3 times the appetite of an ordinary sea soldier. After sitting down, she eagerly ate them. It is not uncommon for a sea soldier to have a big stomach king, especially those who are naturally burly and have a normal appetite 10 times that of an ordinary sea soldier. Eating more makes the body stronger. If it weren't for his limited digestive ability, Loya would have wanted to be like Luffy, but currently his physical fitness is at its limit, with 3 times his appetite. 10 minutes later. Hiccup, having enough to eat, happiness arises naturally. Loya covered her slightly swollen belly, propping it up and not wanting to move. If she were to light another cigarette at this time, unfortunately, regular sailors are prohibited from smoking. To have the freedom to smoke, one must at least reach the rank of a school official in the military. At that time, there will be sufficient supply of cigarettes, coffee, cigars, and so on. There are not many senior naval officers who don't smoke. The atmosphere is like this. Training ground, gathering of new recruits. After a simple warm-up exercise, including Loya, 6 newcomers formed a queue and began running around the training ground. A total of 10 laps and 5 kilometers, followed by 100 push-ups, 100 squats, 100 sit-ups, 10 rope climbing, and more. All training content must be completed before 12 noon. The training amount is only half of that of the elderly, lasting for 1 month. After 1 month, regardless of the performance of the newcomers, the training amount will increase. Can't finish it, practice more after finishing work in the afternoon. Loya adjusted her breathing rhythm and ran as fast as possible within the range that her body could adapt to. Completing training tasks is just basic, what he wants is to reach a qualified or even excellent level as soon as possible and become a formal marine soldier. There are still 5 years left until Luffy sets sail. If one cannot possess the power and position of Major General or above within 5 years, then they will at most be cannon fodder in the turmoil that is about to sweep the world in 5 years. Not to mention the great pirates who fought against supernovae and the New World. Whether they could survive the top war is a question. Becoming a lieutenant general is the minimum requirement. With the power of a great general, his anxious heart can remain stable, and even if things change, he can still occupy a place on the stage. I don't have time to procrastinate. In less than 30 seconds, Loya threw the other newcomers more than 10 meters away. This kid runs so fast. Following behind Loya and eating dust, the faces of the other newcomers immediately collapsed. This is just the first day of training, there's no need to work so hard. The training time is abundant, enough for them to complete all the projects. As they watched Loya get further and further away, a few people suddenly felt anxious. Damn it, we can't fall behind either. A few people gritted their teeth and quickened their pace in anger. If they fell behind too much, wouldn't it seem like they were useless? We can't let that bastard stand out alone. Under normal circumstances, it takes 20 minutes for newcomers to complete 10 laps. However, under the influence of Loya, in less than 15 minutes, the 5 newcomers forcefully completed the entire race. I can't do it anymore. Me too. 5 people were so exhausted that they couldn't catch their breath. They arched their bodies and pressed their hands on their trembling knees to prevent themselves from collapsing. Until Loya passed by them. Hey! 5 people stood still, staring blankly at each other. What's going on? Is this kid still running? I should have finished 10 laps. When Loya finished a lap and passed in front of them again without any intention of stopping, the few finally realized the seriousness of the situation. Trough, this kid needs more practice. Bastard, this is only the first day. Can we give it a way to survive? End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Work also needs to be rolled up. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Work also needs to be rolled up lunchtime. Loya was burying her head and forcefully tearing at the bony chunks of meat. Her stomach had already been depleted during morning training, and she urgently needed to replenish her energy. He wolfed down for a while until the palpitations caused by hunger gradually disappeared, and then Loya slowed down her eating speed. It seems much easier today. Loya felt the trembling of her muscles. If yesterday's muscles were devastated by violence, then today's muscles are the kind of pitiful, whimpering moans that come after the fact. We haven't reached the limit yet. There is a world that heals fatigue and pain. He doesn't need to consider the upper limit of his body's capacity. As long as he can ensure the supply of calories and nutrients, he can ruthlessly waste himself. He sorry, muscle sister. Loya's smile gradually became unrestrained. Suddenly, someone stood by their side. Your name is Loya, right? Loya lifted her head and looked at the other person. Also a new recruit. A man is around 20 years old, with rare fan hair, a slightly frivolous appearance, a thin and weak body, and dark skin. It looks very lacking in beating. It looks a bit familiar. The man with pink hair and a coquettish appearance picked up his hair and introduced himself in an elegant manner. My name is Fen Beauty, your partner. Oh. Loya nodded suddenly. Munka mentioned to him yesterday that miscellaneous soldiers usually work in pairs, with the elderly leading the newcomers, in order to familiarize themselves with the work as soon as possible. I think that's what the other person is referring to. A reflective imprint entered the eye. Loya squinted her eyes, her attention drawn to what the other person was wearing on their right hand, which was a circular iron fist ring made of steel. I remember. Iron Fist, Fen Beauty. This guy is a naval captain in the sea restaurant plot who pretends to fail in front of a beautiful woman, gets angry and gets beaten up by Sanji, and later becomes Tina's subordinate. I don't have much ability, but I'm doing well. That's really rude. Fen Beauty looked at Loya's extremely bad eating habits and looked disgusted. Fortunately, he only had 1 month of partner time. By the end of the month, he would be able to pass the branch assessment and become a formal sailor. In fact, he is now able to complete basic training excellently, but the assessment time is fixed and it's useless to be anxious. It's time to work. Have you finished eating? Wait, I'll take some more. Loya quickly ran to the self-service area, picked up 2 large pieces of meat with bones, and finally came to Fen Beauty with satisfaction. If you can't eat enough, how can you have the strength to work? Let's go. Fen Beauty had a twitch at the corner of his eye. This guy, is he a foodie? Follow me. The area that the 2 people are responsible for cleaning is located on the top floor and rooftop of the defense tower, including the toilet, which needs to be cleaned thoroughly. Fen Beauty skillfully took out cleaning tools such as brooms, rags, buckets, and mops from the tool room. Hello, newcomer, please follow me first and familiarize yourself with the process. We will divide the work tomorrow. Good Loya took the broom. Isn't it just cleaning up? Even dogs can do it. Scan first and then drag. In the corridor, Fen Beauty vigorously rubbed the floor tiles with a mop, and his work attitude was unusually serious. Listen, the corridor is a key area, you must clean it spotlessly. Loya followed the mop a bit puzzled. On the surface, this guy doesn't seem like a type who likes to work at all. I didn't expect him to be so serious. A person cannot be judged by their appearance. The corridor was very wide, and the 2 of them walked side by side. It took almost 10 minutes to clean up to the end of the corridor. When Loya turned around to look, she was immediately startled. The area he cleaned looked very clean on the surface, but the half of Fen Beauty had a shiny ground that could even be used as a mirror. Half shiny, half gray. The comparison is extremely obvious. Fen Beauty squatted down and wiped the floor that Loya had cleaned with his fingers. Looking at the dust on his fingertips, his face immediately darkened. He suddenly grabbed Loya's collar and roared with bloodshot eyes, "Bastard newcomer, are you underestimating cleanliness?" "Absolutely not." Loya shook her head vigorously. "This guy probably has a cleanliness fetish. If I remember correctly, the other party did love cleanliness and placed great emphasis on their own image when they first appeared in the plot. And I really enjoy pretending to be forced. Also, this guy has such great strength." Fen Beauty was angry for a while, then loosened Loya's collar and said coldly, "Let me demonstrate again. Remember, this is the battlefield, and any slight mistake could lead to a complete defeat." "Understood." Loya swallowed her saliva. Undoubtedly able to become a naval captain and get involved in miscellaneous work, it seems that my level of effort is far from enough. Shit, it suddenly ignited. Damn it. Shine on the ground. Apply more force. Don't let the dust underestimate us. Yes. Wash the mop clean, don't be stingy, pour in more soapy water, treat them like lovers. Understood. Don't let go of the spider web in the corner. Oh. 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Colonel's office. After dealing with the work at hand and feeling relaxed, Colonel Rod suddenly felt a long-lost sense of convenience. When he pushed open the office door and saw the spotless and shiny corridor, he couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. Well done. It's been a long time since he saw the interior of the fortress cleaned so clean that it even made him feel like he couldn't bear to step down, afraid of dirtying the ground. Colonel Rod rubbed the less dirty soles of his shoes before leaving the office and walking in the clean corridor, his suppressed mood relieved a lot. Oh, even the lights are wiped clean. Not bad, really good. Colonel Rod nodded repeatedly in satisfaction, and a smile gradually appeared on his face. I don't know which new recruit cleaned it, but I need to give it a good commendation at the next meeting. If the branch cleans so clean every day, the overall atmosphere will definitely be better. Arriving at the toilet, the floor and walls were incredibly shiny, even the wax-yellow dirt that had been lingering in the urinal for many years disappeared without a trace. Hiss. Looking at himself reflected in the wall of the urinal, Colonel Rod instinctively raised his hand and stroked his hair, as if looking in a mirror. Nice. Another thing that made him overjoyed was that there was no longer the familiar foul odor in the toilet, but instead a faint scent of soap wafted. Suck. Colonel Rod closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Ha Shu Tan. Commendation, must be commended. Commend in front of everyone. With such serious soldiers, why worry about the future for the 153 branches? Well, I can't hold it anymore. After admiring the restroom for a while, Colonel Rod opened the small door of the toilet and a dazzling light shone in his eyes, making him unable to open his eyes. This is. Looking at the shiny and clean version of the toilet that he wanted to lick and taste, Colonel Rod swallowed his saliva hard and carefully took off his pants and sat on it. Time passes by bit. In 10 minutes. Colonel Rod's face turned red and he gritted his teeth as he lifted his pants. Damn it, I can't pull it out. Sitting on this feels too guilty. He needs to change the restroom. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Rotation, jumping, I close my eyes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Rotation, jumping, I close my eyes in the evening, on the rooftop of the tower. Looking down from the top, the town of Shells has a panoramic view. Loya shook the clean navy shirt with bare arms and hung it on the clothesline, hoping to air dry it. All work for today has been completed. He's so thrilled. Loya wiped the sweat off her face, showing a satisfied smile. She worked tirelessly all afternoon, sweating profusely, and her body and mind were very fulfilled. There is still half an hour until dinner, so you can take a short rest. Being too nervous is not good for you. If we could keep going. Heaven seemed to hear his voice, and a snow-white and delicate cigarette appeared before his eyes. even more enchanting than the women in the dark alley. Omega. Loya blinked her eyes, the corners of her mouth uncontrollably rising. She hurriedly took the cigarette and her gaze towards Fen Beauty changed. It's like seeing a long-lost brother. If we were to go to college in our past lives, we might even have to shout, adoptive father. Diggo, where did you get it from? Humph, newcomer, don't compare me with you. Fen Beauty proudly raised his chin, lit one, and threw the lighter to Loya, then leisurely squatted in the corner. Smoking was prohibited during the new recruits period, and all items carried upon entering the camp were confiscated, making it difficult to obtain cigarettes. However, having money makes things easier. The two of them squatted in the corner with bare arms, their expressions enjoying themselves, and they looked more like prisoners who had just undergone labor reform than sea soldiers. Loya, you did a great job today. They all learned from Diggo. Loya humbly waved her hand. The fact is the same. This guy really has a serious cleanliness fetish, a rigorous attitude at work, even more serious than when dating his girlfriend, to the point where he can even lick the toilet. At first glance, it's from a wealthy family. Working with the other person, in his opinion, is no less than practicing in the morning. It not only consumes a lot of physical energy, but also serves as a spiritual test when facing a super boss restroom. His nose is so fast malfunctioning. Fen Beauty looked at Loya. When we first met at noon and saw Loya's rude eating behavior, he actually felt disgusted. He preferred a partner with elegant manners. But after spending an afternoon together, he completely changed his attitude towards Loya. Young, energetic, not complaining, willing to endure hardship. Also, those who love cleanliness are good people. When he first joined the military, he also cleaned up with his seniors, but their perfunctory attitude towards cleaning almost made him go berserk. Loya's seriousness made him very fond. There's still some time, come over and I'll teach you something new. Putting out his cigarette butt, Fen Beauty arrived in the middle of the open rooftop, as if he had arrived at a stage that attracted attention, his whole being in high spirits. Loya, you're a great kid, but if you want to make a living in the upper class in the future, elegant words and actions are very necessary, just like writing beautifully. Fen Beauty showed a mesmerizing smile, his right hand covering the sailor's hat, his legs bent, and he supported his body with his toes. And dance is the best way to enhance one's temperament. Cover your crotch. Kicking. Swing your arm. Spin, jump, close your eyes. High difficulty movements continue one after another. Loya's eyes widened wide. The clean and neat transitions, mesmerizing rhythm, and for a moment, Loya thought she was watching a professional performance. Elegant. How elegant. He can be 100% certain at this moment that this guy's dance level is definitely the highest in the world. Being a sailor is too talented. Fen Beauty spun around and looked cool towards Loya. Hook. Loya, come on. Loya was about to refuse. He liked watching the little sister dance, but he knew nothing about dance and didn't know where to start if he wanted to dance. However, the body swayed to the rhythm of Fen Beauty. Spin, jump, close your eyes. Shit. He has been enchanted. Night falls. The power supply on the island is limited, making it impossible to provide 24-hour lighting services for the branch. In addition, the training intensity of the branch is relatively calm, so it is time for rest at night. The sailors all return to the dormitory. New recruit dormitories. The new people, who had finished washing up, lay comfortably on the bed. Hey, Loya hasn't come back yet. I didn't see it. When training during the day, that bastard is really arrogant. Humph, I haven't finished training yet. He should practice more on the training ground. I really deserve it. The newcomers are mocking and mocking. In the morning's basic training, from the beginning of the long run, Loya did not follow the usual rules and ran a full 20 laps. The rest of the training programs also benchmark against those veterans, but for newcomers, it's not enough time to complete such a large amount of training in the morning. Out of all the training projects, Loya only completed more than half of them due to unauthorized increase in workload, making him the only one among the 6 newcomers who failed to complete the training task. According to the regulations of the branch, if you cannot complete the training task in the morning, you will have to practice more at night. I really deserve it. Hello, are you playing cards? Okay. Hey, where did you get that card? Hee, I'm hiding in my butt. New recruit training ground. In the dim sand, a constantly undulating figure could be vaguely seen. 156157158. Loya sat up again and again with bare arms and hands holding the back of her head, her sweaty back covered in mud and sand. After dinner, he didn't go back to the dormitory to rest directly, but came to the training ground, ready to make up for the training that he couldn't complete during the day. He needs to train himself according to the standards of formal sailors. If he cannot complete it in the morning, he will work overtime at night until all projects are completed. This is the bottom line he has set for himself. No phone, no computer. Returning to the dormitory, besides boasting, I can only bury my head in bed early. Sleeping so early, what about health preservation? It's better to practice more outside. Effort may not necessarily yield results, but the sweat put in will never disappoint oneself, especially in this world full of crises. 199200. Loya's spirit relaxed and she lay sprawled on the sand. I have completed another task. Take a breath. 5 minutes later, Loya walked towards the rope zone. Climbing ropes is a key training project. In naval battles, when a warship is docked with an enemy ship, one of the best ways to board the enemy ship is through ropes. If you unfortunately fall into the water during battle, you also have to rely on ropes to climb back onto the ship. If you want to save your life, you need to practice more. Late at night, people are still. Loya dragged his tired body back to the dormitory with a limp. He fell several times while climbing the rope and almost fell to death. Doodle, the dormitory was filled with snoring and a strong foot odor that was as strong as substance, making him almost unable to open his eyes. Damn it, who didn't wash their feet? Loya covered her mouth and nose and came to the balcony. The world. Field expansion. Entering the world training ground, my body and mind immediately calmed down. He likes to stay in such a quiet environment, as if he is the only one left in the world, and there is no need to worry about anything. Such as 2.5 hours later, Loya collapsed in the center of the training ground like a ball of soft mud, her muscles not belonging to her, and her nerves reflexively twitched. Then, he saw a person. Diggo. Next to the training ground, I don't know when there was an additional stage that wasn't too big. Fenbeauty was standing in the center, tiptoeing and pressing his hat with his right hand. Seemingly sensing Loya's gaze, Fenbeauty moved. Cover your crotch, kick your legs, and swing your arms. And there's also sliding shit. World has also recorded the dance teaching during the day. Loya stood up silently and put on her pants. When a person is alone, it is inevitable that they will release some of their nature, cough cough cough. He is actually afraid of damaging his clothes during training. Don't worry, it's an illusion. Loya comforted herself, then frowned and looked at the dancing Fenbeauty, lost in thought. As is well known, in the world of pirates, one can be inactive, but one cannot be inactive, and singing, dancing, and rap are essential skills for everyone. Anyway, there are no outsiders. No, this is a flexibility training. Cover your crotch. Slide. Spin, jump. I close my eyes. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Jealousy disguises me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Jealousy disguises me. In the blink of an eye, more than half a month passed by in a flash. The Black Cat pirates have reappeared. Early in the morning, the atmosphere of the 153 branch was extremely oppressive. The Black Cat pirates once again raided a village near the branch, but the branch had no choice. By the time Colonel Rod led his team to arrive, the Black Cat pirate squad had already disappeared without a trace, not even seeing the tail of the pirate ship, leaving only a messy small town. Fortunately, the villagers saw the arrival of pirates and hid in the mountains early. New recruit training ground. Loya ran exceptionally smoothly, surpassing the newcomers of the same period and quickly leaving them behind. A few people complained incessantly. "Damn it, how many laps did we get? 2 laps, no, 3 laps. Isn't that kid tired? Forget it, let's run slowly." In just over half a month, they were still in the adaptation stage, but Loya was already able to easily complete basic training and was about to catch up with the progress of the veterans. "Do you want to work so hard?" Recently, the instructors have been looking at them with a hint of disgust in their eyes, just like when my parents looked at them when I was a child. Feeling uncomfortable. Not only did the newcomers feel the pressure, but the elderly also experienced a doubling of the pressure, making it uncomfortable to be compared to a newcomer. In the afternoon, after finishing their chores, Loya and Fen Beauty hid on the rooftop, puffing in the clouds and enjoying the most leisurely time of the day. Fen Beauty stared at Loya, feeling a little uneasy. "Why? Are you trying too hard, kid? Do you have it?" Loya was stunned for a moment. "That's where we're going. Even if he includes training in the world, his total training amount is only twice that of a regular sea soldier. A target that is 200 times closer is not just a little bit short." He joined the Navy at the age of 16 and was promoted to Chow Chang within 6 months. He also mastered the shaving technique in the 6 styles, which is not a secret skill that ordinary people can use for their physical fitness. Not to mention those monsters with amazing physical talents, even without systematic cultivation, they are 10 to 100 times stronger than him. Is the body resistant to bullets, afraid or not? Loya didn't feel how hard he worked, but instead felt that it wasn't enough. His body was just an ordinary person, and besides working hard to cultivate, there was nothing else he could do. Devil fruit. With his current abilities, unless he picks up one by luck, it is impossible to obtain it through other means. Fen Beauty patted Loya's shoulder and said earnestly, "Loya, I was worried that you might be wasting your body." "Thank you, don't worry, I have a count." Loya smiled and thanked. If there is no world to protect him, then training may indeed cause his body to collapse, and he still understands the principle of balancing work and rest. But time waits for no one. The world is his greatest help in becoming stronger, and it is also his only advantage over others. If he cannot fully utilize it, he will definitely blame himself in the future. The topic is a bit heavy. Fen Beauty stood up and lay on the low wall, looking down at the training ground below. Suddenly, he said, "By the end of the month, will you participate in the new recruit assessment?" Of course. Loya did not conceal anything. He did indeed plan to become an official sailor earlier, so that he could have access to more training programs earlier. For example, physical skills, swordsmanship, and marksmanship. There is also practical combat. Physical training is just the foundation, combat is the best way to transform people. Fen Beauty sighed. After half a month of getting along, he regarded Loya as a friend and could see that Loya was not willing to settle in this ordinary branch. With Loya's level of effort, even if her talent is a bit lacking, it is still a matter of time before she can rise to the top, and she may even enter the Navy headquarters in the future. But the current situation is really bad. "Loya, if I were you, the later I became an official sailor, the better." "Are you referring to the Black Cat pirates?" "That's right." Loya fell into silence. The Black Cat pirates are entrenched in the waters under the responsibility of 153 branches, with increasing popularity. Captain Crow's bounty is as high as 16 million Bailey. In the entire East China Sea, there are not many great pirates with bounties exceeding 15 million Bailey. The branch is not unwilling to suppress Chloe, but unable to do so. Even Colonel Rod, the base commander, is not a match for Chloe. But the responsibility borne by the Navy requires the 153 branches to suppress the Black Cat pirates, even if it will replicate the tragedy of last time. Therefore, once you become an official sea soldier, you may face the Black Cat pirates at any time. With the power of ordinary sea soldiers, the probability of death is extremely high. Loya was well aware of the hidden meaning in Fenbeauty's language. If you become an official sailor later, the probability of facing the Black Cat pirates will be lower. On the one hand, the Black Cat pirates may leave the waters under the responsibility of the 153 branches to compete for larger territories and even enter the Great Route. On the other hand, as Captain Crow's reputation grows, the headquarters may send strong men to suppress him. But the problem is that Captain Crow's bounty must reach at least 20 million Bailey to attract the attention of the Navy headquarters. 20 million is that thread. Diggo, I won't stop. Loya's gaze gradually became fierce. After traveling to this world, he kept recalling intelligence about the East China Sea, and one thing he remembered very clearly. Chloe will not leave the East China Sea. In addition, for a maximum of 2 years, Chloe will attack the 153 branch warships and alone kill all the sailors on board, leaving only Monka to carry out the retreat plan. Within 2 years, if he lies flat and cannot grow to be stronger than Chloe, he is likely to become one of the sailors killed by him. Even if lucky enough to avoid a disaster, one will still face the dark rule of Monka. Escaping is useless. As long as you become a naval soldier of the 153 branch, you must face this challenge. The only way to survive is to make yourself stronger as soon as possible, stronger than Chloe. Before joining the branch, he had considered whether to go to other naval bases, but the navigation environment in this world was extremely poor, and he couldn't do without this island. It's okay to wander in the nearby waters, but if you want to travel far, you need to apply to the government, otherwise you can easily be seen as a pirate. He doesn't want to be a pirate. Not only does his life be precarious, but he will also be despised by the world, so he has no social status. Moreover, even if we go to other branches, we cannot avoid danger. East China Sea Overlord, Click, Fishman alone, Joker, Bucky, these great pirates with bounties exceeding 15 million are lurking in various parts of the East China Sea, and everyone is no less than Chloe. As long as he wants to stand out, he must face them. Silence lasted for a long time. Loya felt something was wrong and frowned, asking, "What about you? Aren't you also going to take the graduation assessment?" "Don't you worry. I said, I'm different from you." Fenbeauty smiled and shook his fingers, showing off seriously, "I have connections. It won't be long before I'm transferred to the Navy headquarters." Damn it, this bastard is so damn. Jealousy left Loya completely unrecognizable. He devoted his life to training in order to go to the headquarters of the Navy, which is the starting point for his success. What can he achieve by staying in the East China Sea? As a result, this bastard can go to the Navy headquarters without doing anything. Related accounts and the like are the most annoying. Pretending a wave in front of Loya, Fenbeauty felt happy, as if he had had a glass of ice cream in the summer. "Well, don't sulk anymore. Come on, I'll teach you how to dance." "Teach me how to dance." Loya exuded a black aura throughout her body. Hee hee. Bastard Fenbeauty, are you dragging me to the heavens? Don't underestimate people, I'm not who I was half a month ago. Come and dance. The loser washes the other party's underwear. Today I'm going to let you know what true dance skills are. Half an hour later. Loya oars, end of this chapter. Chapter 7. Newcomer Assessment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Newcomer Assessment. As the end of the month assessment approaches, the mental state of the new recruits is becoming increasingly tense, and the training volume has increased significantly. Chloe's threat is indeed terrifying. But for those new recruits who have been in the military for more than 3 months, if they fail to complete the basic physical fitness assessment for a long time, they are likely to be discharged. They find it even more difficult to accept. Especially for many new recruits, the purpose of joining the Navy is to support their families, and only by becoming a formal third-class soldier can they receive a salary. The only relaxed option is for newcomers who have just enlisted. On the day of assessment. In the new training area, when I saw Loya walking towards the assessment registration office, the others looked at each other in disbelief. This is only the first month. Loya, are you going to participate in the assessment? That's right. Loya turned around to look at the newcomers at the same time and encouraged with a smile, you guys, come on, become official sailors as soon as possible. We're okay. The new people silently watched as Loya left. The difference turned out to be so big. But strangely, there was no imagined unwillingness in my heart. The newcomers glanced at each other and coincidentally showed a bitter smile. When they first arrived, they did indeed have a strong aversion towards Loya, mostly driven by jealousy. However, as they got along with Loya, jealousy gradually turned into admiration. The efforts and sweat that Loya put in were visible to them throughout the entire process, and based on their hearts, even now they cannot achieve it. Damn it, they deserve to be stronger. Come on, Loya. You must pass the assessment. Show those stinky old guys the strength of the newcomers. The newcomers placed their hands on their cheeks and shouted loudly at Loya's back, attracting the attention of many people. Loya didn't turn back, raised her hand, index and middle fingers together, and swiped from her ear towards the front, indicating that she received it. It will never fail. At the training ground, almost all the new recruits participating in the assessment arrived, totaling more than 20 people. Seeing Loya's arrival was somewhat surprising. It is very rare for newcomers to participate in assessments after 1 month of training, but it is not surprising if the opponent is Loya. A week ago, Loya caught up with their training progress. This kid is really working hard. Loya arrived next to Fenbeauty, with a straight figure. Oh, Loya. Fenbeauty looked straight at him, teasing him with a subtle and imperceptible voice. You were very handsome just now. Not bad. Loya curled her lips. After a month of hard training, he finally reached the time for the test results. This physical fitness assessment was not only a test for him, but also a recognition of himself. He firmly believes that hard work can really make one stronger. The first level, military posture for half an hour. A row of tables and chairs were placed in front of the military formation, including Colonel Rod, and more than 10 officers from the branch were all present. No small action can escape their eyes. The assessment of new recruits is a major and good thing for the branch, and the future main force of the branch will come from these new recruits. Rod smiled and scanned the new recruit, paused slightly when he saw Fenbeauty, then looked at Loya next to Fenbeauty. His gaze gradually became strange. 3 parts happy, 3 parts appreciated, 3 parts pleased, and 1 part gritted his teeth in anger, like a fan-shaped chart. Monka, is that the kid? Yes. Monka responded with a muffled expression, looking at Loya with a puzzled expression. Before coming, Colonel Rod specifically asked him about the miscellaneous allocation of new recruits, especially those responsible for the top 2 floors of the tower. I don't know why. Well, it's really good. Rod calmly praised, but in his heart he cursed loudly. Little rabbit. This month, he has to walk 2 more stairs to use the toilet every day, and he doesn't know why he brushes the toilet so clean every day. There isn't even a female soldier in the branch, who's not a rough guy. Fortunately, this kid is about to become an official sailor and no longer needs to be responsible for miscellaneous tasks. His difficult days have finally come to an end. Train and take care of him more later. Understood. Monka's eyes slightly changed. What does it mean? Let him keep an eye on it. Loya shouldn't have offended the colonel. It's really possible. I heard that recently when the colonel uses the restroom, he will specifically run to the bottom of the tower to compete with the sailors for a pit. It is very likely that the toilet upstairs was not cleaned thoroughly. He understood. However, even if the colonel does not explain, he will strictly supervise the new recruits, and any unqualified behavior cannot be tolerated. Half an hour passed quickly. All the new recruits, like sculptures, successfully completed their military posture assessment. If they couldn't even pass the first level, it would really become a joke. Next, run and fuck. A total of 20 laps of 10 kilometers, running the full distance within 30 minutes is considered qualified, and those who can run for 25 minutes are considered excellent. Start. As the order was issued, the new recruits immediately ran around the training ground, with Loya following at the end of the team and accelerating calmly. When he first arrived, he ran 10 laps with other newcomers in 15 minutes, and according to the average human physique in this world, the competition can still be completed. But to complete 20 laps within 30 minutes, the difficulty is not simply multiplying by 2, and many elderly people who have trained for 3 months find it difficult to achieve. And this is just the beginning. There are 5 or 6 physical fitness assessments ahead, and sufficient physical strength must be retained in order to pass all levels. A few minutes later. What's going on? Running, Loya felt a chill and her hair stood up, as if she was being stared at by some fierce beast. Loya quickly discovered the cause. Munka military chow. His burly body stood beside him like an iron tower, running at the same speed as him, leaving a footprint on the sand with each step. This tonnage can crush people. Also, I don't know if it's an illusion, but Loya felt that Monka's attention was always on him, which was a bit scary. Gollum. Loya swallowed her saliva. During the running exercise assessment, several lieutenants will follow along to record the training status of new recruits. I didn't expect to be targeted by Monka. The breathing rhythm is a bit chaotic. Loya adjusted her breathing and pace, and it was impossible for her to be under the gaze of a demon like Monka without any pressure in her heart. Although Monka is just a minor stepping stone in the plot, his ability to become the leader of 153 branches in the future is a testament to his strength. Not to mention anything else, the giant axe carried by the other person alone weighed at least a few hundred pounds, making it impossible for him to lift it. Wait, giant axe. Loya slightly turned her head to look at Monka, her heart trembling again. Carrying such a heavy weapon, able to run smoothly without even sweating. So strong. For the first time, Loya felt so strong at such a close distance, even seeing Colonel Rod before had not given him such a feeling. Truly motionless like a mountain. Loya is excited. He instinctively focused his attention, observing Monka's running posture, how his feet landed, the amplitude of his arm swing, and the center of gravity of his body. And the most important breathing rhythm. Monka kept an eye on Loya and immediately noticed her changes, with a hint of surprise in her eyes. Is this kid learning from him? End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Fast corners are true fast. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Fast corners are true fast. In just 10 minutes, the new recruits participating in the assessment were divided into 3 tiers in the training ground, and their strength was clear at a glance. Fen Beauty is in the first tier and has undergone systematic training under the guidance of his parents since he was very young, with a solid foundation. If it weren't for growing up addicted to dance and having little interest in becoming a sea soldier, one wouldn't have been thrown into the branch by angry parents to start over. When he bypassed the bend and saw Loya more than 10 meters ahead, he was stunned for a moment, even slowing down his pace. Loya. Isn't Loya behind? Is it difficult to fall behind by a whole circle? Fen Beauty frowned, unable to explain the scene in front of him except for falling behind by a whole circle, but with his understanding of Loya, he shouldn't be so far behind. I didn't say much. Fen Beauty accelerated past Loya. Now it is the recruitment assessment, and the only person who can help oneself is oneself. If one cannot complete the assessment within the specified time, it can only indicate that one's strength is not enough. Hurry up and adjust, you bastard. Fen Beauty silently recited in his heart. A few days ago, Loya had already met the assessment criteria, and today's mental state is also very good. At this moment, falling behind so much is likely due to external interference. The other new recruits in the first tier also caught up, and when they saw Loya and Monka advancing side by side, their hearts slowed down. It's Loya. And there's also the Monka army Chow. Oh no, Loya has been targeted by the demon god. If the naval officers of the branch were to vote, the most revered superior officer would definitely be the Monka sergeant. Monka Junchao always has a cold face and is extremely strict in dealing with everything. Anything that makes him dissatisfied may attract criticism. At the same time, the Monka army commander is very strong, not even some lieutenants are his opponents, and only Colonel Road in the branch can suppress the Monka army commander. The true demon god of 153 branches. It's both respectful and frightening. Loya is really unlucky. When everyone overtook Loya, a hint of pity appeared in their eyes. Although it was embarrassing to be caught up by the newcomers, they still liked Loya privately. If they were targeted by Monka, they would probably behave abnormally. Quickly, the second-tier team surpassed Loya. The worst third-tier team also reached behind Loya's buttocks. I'm a whole circle behind. Loya looked at the new recruits who had surpassed him and was very clear that he was far behind, but he didn't worry, but instead tried to maintain a calm mindset. The body is adapting. Observation and thinking are one of the best ways to learn. Loya did not blindly imitate Monka, but instead used the techniques displayed by the other person, combined with the running essentials guided by the instructor, to constantly adjust her running posture and find the rhythm points that suit her. Repeated trial and error has left him far behind others, but it has also gradually helped him master a more reasonable way of exercising. He's enlightened. The chaotic breathing gradually stabilized. The chaotic pace has regained its rhythm. My body is so relaxed. Loya can clearly feel that his body has relaxed a lot. Previously, he could only reach a qualified level at most. Now, perhaps he should try to pursue excellence. A brilliant smile bloomed on the face. Monka, I need to accelerate. Before Monka could react, Loya rushed several meters away, with a much faster speed than before. This kid. Monka's eyes lit up slightly and he quickly chased after her. Behind the two of them, the new recruits in the third tier looked a bit dumbfounded. So fast, why did you suddenly accelerate? Seeing that Loya's buttocks could be touched, there was still a hint of joy in my heart. How could I suddenly shake them off from afar? Damn Loya, when the first and second echelons catch up, you didn't do that. Treat them differently. 1 minute later. There was a commotion in the second tier. The newcomers are catching up. When turning, the second team watched in confusion as Loya overtook from the inside and quickly distanced themselves from them. Why did this kid explode? Is it okay to do it so quickly? Don't wilt in a while. Look, Loya is about to catch up with the first tier. Under the gaze of everyone, Loya caught up with the tail of the first team and quickly overtook from the inside on the next bend. Hiss. Really surpassing it. You should know that the new recruits in the first tier are all striving for excellence, and it is not uncommon to surpass them. It's okay, that kid is a whole circle behind us and it's not easy to catch up. With such a fast speed, he'll soon be unable to hold on. The new recruits are comforting themselves. If Loya were to surpass them, where should their old faces be? At this moment, the assessment time has passed halfway. The weakest third-tier team slowed down in a landslide-like manner, and each member's physical exertion was severe, so they could only run at a slower speed. They are well aware that the gap with other teams will continue to widen, and if not unexpected, the first team will repeatedly surpass them in order to run for 25 minutes. Excuse me. The sound suddenly came from behind. Here we go. The new recruits in the third tier looked back in frustration. When they saw Loya alone, they were all stunned for a moment, thinking they had hallucinations. What happened? Isn't this kid just getting rid of them? Excuse me, excuse me. It wasn't until Loya swaggered through them that the new recruits in the third tier understood what had happened. Fuck. They were overwhelmed by newcomers. The second-tier team also discovered Loya, who was catching up quickly, and each one was shivering with a sense of crisis. How could this kid be so brave? I thought Loya was running so fast that she would soon be unable to hold on, but as a result, she ran faster and faster, like a wild horse running free. Damn it, losing to newcomers in formal training is not a glorious thing. They must uphold the dignity of veterans. Brothers, don't let him pass. Understood. The second-tier team gathered their formation and blocked the runway tightly. To surpass them, they could only try from the outermost circle, but doing so would waste a lot of energy. Loya realized this and hung behind the second tier, not in a hurry to break through, silently waiting for the opportunity. 15 seconds later, Loya suddenly accelerated. Ahead, bend. Not good. When turning, in order to save energy, the echelon formation will be stretched into a linear shape, which will expose many flaws. Previously, Loya overtook them on a bend. However, before they could perfect their defense formation, Loya plunged directly into the innermost part of the runway, huddled with them and headed forward. When the next bend arrived, Loya accelerated again and broke away from the formation. Exploded. The new recruits in the second tier turned black. Being easily surpassed by newcomers, I really want to dig a pit and bury myself inside, saving myself embarrassment. These days, newcomers are all monsters. Don't worry, there's still the first tier. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Recognition of the Axe Emperor. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Recognition of the Axe Emperor Training Ground, Scorching Sun. In 20 minutes, the elite of the first tier had already completed 16 laps, with the last 4 laps left. Everyone was sweating profusely, working hard to accelerate their pace. If you want to run for 25 minutes, the last few minutes are the key, not to mention there is a new player chasing closely behind, driving them to run wildly. They are the elites among the new recruits, and they train extremely hard on a daily basis. Everyone is somewhat arrogant, and if they are caught up by new recruits who have only been trained for a month. Shit, even thinking about it makes me feel uncomfortable. The third-tier team, which has the worst physical strength, has completely become a background board, and even the formation is difficult to maintain, with people constantly falling behind sparsely. Their goal is just to be qualified. Here we go. He's here again. We've been thrown around 3 times, haven't we? You will definitely be scolded by the instructor when you go back. Watching Loya pass by, the new recruits in the third tier were complaining incessantly, without even the strength to complain. Being overtaken by the first and second tier teams is not a big deal, as they are usually not as good as others. However, they have been left behind by newcomers several times, so who should we argue with? Newcomers are invincible, okay. The pressure on the second-tier team has also doubled. They belong to the stable and qualified, but difficult to achieve excellence. They know they can't compare to the elite in the first tier, but never thought their buttocks would be blown out by newcomers. Watching Loya catch up, everyone was very anxious. If they were to be surpassed again, they would be thrown a whole circle. However, it cannot be stopped. Brothers, are you going to stop him? What are you stopping with? Damn it, make way for the innermost path. We don't feel well, and we can't make the guy at the front feel comfortable. The second tier quickly reached a consensus, giving way to the innermost and most energy-efficient position, so that Loya could pass quickly. This scene happened to be seen by the first echelon in the turn. Sleeping trough, the second team's jerks are giving way to the newcomers. Do you still have to be shameless? Brothers, hurry up. The newcomers are catching up. In the 23rd minute, Loya finally caught up with the bottom of the first-tier team. But at this moment, the new recruits in the first tier can no longer care about Loya behind their buttocks. Everyone is sweating profusely and running wildly, with only the last 1,000 meters left in their minds. 800, 500 300, the endpoint appears in view. At this moment, the formation became disorganized, and everyone coincidentally began their final acceleration, tongue-out wild sprint. The assessment results are related to their future. Hurry up, hurry up. Loya's pupils contracted and she stared intently at the red line at the finish line. The adrenaline continued to surge, and her exhausted legs regained their strength. Hurry up. Even if it can only be shortened by 1 second, we must do our best. The 25th minute. Loya bent her body and panted, her hands resting on her trembling knees. Sweat dripped onto the ground, and her exposed skin turned slightly red from intense exercise, emitting a visible heat. The brain is even more blank. Well done. Accompanied by praise, the palm with an iron fist clasp reached out in front of me. Pop. Loya grabbed Fenbeauty's hand and stood up trembling with the help of force. After taking a deep breath of air, she looked up at the sky. How my heart almost burst. Fenbeauty's state was much more relaxed, clearly with a lot of energy left. He smiled and pointed behind Loya, saying, "Look back." Loya turned around to look. A few people from the first tier were all there, one by one like exhausted mules and horses, holding their waist and legs and sighing. Wait a minute. Loya looked at Fenbeauty in her position, then at the other recruits, and quickly realized something. Does he seem to have run to the front? After a brief pause, several people came to Loya one after another and gave her a fierce blow on the chest, then extended their thumbs. You kid, you're amazing. Not bad. Loya chuckled and replied very humbly. There are other assessments as well. Damn it, you're not satisfied even after surpassing us once. A few people immediately cursed, but the look in Loya's eyes no longer showed the previous hostility, but instead carried admiration. Regardless of whether Loya is a pink newcomer or not, being able to beat them in training is enough to earn their respect. Respect the strongest in the military camp. The remaining new recruits are still being assessed, and the extra 5 minutes are considered a benefit for Loya and his team. They can rest well and recover their strength. Loya paused for a moment and walked towards the standing Monka sergeant not far away, feeling grateful. During the previous running exercises, he could clearly feel that Monka was cooperating with him. Monka military chow, thank you for your help. No need to thank you, this is the result of your own efforts. Monka nodded uncontrollably. He likes serious sailors. Continue to work hard next. Yes. Loya straightened her waist and saluted the military. Quickly, the running test is over. For new recruits failed to pass the exam and left the training ground in despair. Normally, since you have registered for the assessment, even if your grades are not outstanding during regular training, you can still barely meet the standards. But the assessment tests not only physical strength and endurance, but also mentality. Especially under the attention of many school officials, abnormal performance is a common situation. A brief 5-minute halftime break, and the next assessment will start soon. 200 push-ups, required to be completed in 5 minutes, with standard movements and no pauses during the process. Excellent within 4 minutes. 1, 2, the new recruits, facing the scorching sun, lay on the sandy ground, undulating. Whenever a new recruit's movements were not up to standard, the examiner's whip would slap on their back. Being drawn 3 times, directly eliminated. 34, 35, 36, Loya exerted her arms and lifted her body in an orderly manner. Push-up assessment is easier than running exercises, and most new recruits can pass it. The pressure is not high, and their minds start to daydream. Is that guy Kebi also training like this? Even if calculated based on the training volume of the branch, multiplied by 200 times, it is 40,000 push-ups, with a total of over 80,000 seconds per day for 24 hours. On average, one is done every 2 seconds, not to mention other training programs. Impossible, even pile drivers are not as powerful. Load. Thinking of the giant axe on the back of the Monka soldier Chow, Loya seemed to understand a bit. There wasn't enough time, so he came to bear the weight. Carrying a sandbag to do push-ups is definitely several times more effective than doing it directly. Give it a try when you go back at night. Pop. The whip struck fiercely on the back, causing a scorching pain. Don't get distracted. Yes. Loya's face turned pale, and he quickly concentrated on training. The whip of the Monka sergeant would not show mercy on him. Hiss. There must be bleeding. 3 minutes and 53 seconds. 200. Loya took a deep breath and stood up with a relaxed expression, while the other recruits also completed push-up assessments one by one. No one was eliminated this time. Monka picked up a notebook and wrote an U after Loya's name, which once again raised his evaluation of Loya in his heart. Compared to his previous running exercises, Loya has completed this assessment with ease and has completely transformed the skills learned from him into his own. Strong learning ability. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. The Most Beautiful Boy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. The Most Beautiful Boy. Sit-ups, squats, frog jumps. The assessment items were carried out in sequence, and except for the difficulty of climbing ropes, the new recruits were already able to complete the other items. At 11 a.m., the assessment is all over. Monka looked at the small notebook in his hand, and in the column of Loya's, there were all the excellent ones, with a comprehensive score that ranked in the top 3 among all the new recruits. Close the notebook. Free to move, gather at the training ground in half an hour. Yes. The new recruits responded loudly, except for a few who performed poorly and knew they were likely to be brushed off. The excitement on the faces of the other recruits could not be suppressed. I have been training hard for several months, just for this moment. The new recruits were free to move around, and the school officials began to get busy, holding small notebooks for scoring and discussing the performance of the new recruits. Monka approached Colonel Rod alone, looking very serious. Colonel, the new recruit Loya's performance is excellent. I suggest focusing on training him. If he is lazy in miscellaneous work, he must be punished according to military discipline, but please do not deliberately target him. Colonel Rod is a bit confused. When did he say he wanted to target Loya? Such an excellent new recruit, his baby doesn't have time yet. Realizing that Monka might have misunderstood, Rod couldn't help but laugh and cry, Monka, I understand what you mean. Please rest assured that I will handle it fairly. Thank you, Colonel. Monka calmed down and saluted before returning to his post. Due to limited resources in the 153 branch, it is rare to have an excellent new recruit. If someone is targeted due to personal emotions, it would be unfair. Half an hour passed quickly. The new recruits stood neatly in line, waiting for Colonel Rod's command. Rod arrived at the front of the queue, bowed to the new recruits, then took out the list and began to call the names. Fen Beauty. Arrive. Assessment score, excellent. Being able to achieve excellent comprehensive results not only represents personal honor, but also means being directly promoted to private. The real benefits. Loya. Arrive. Assessment score, excellent. Loya's spirit lifted, and although he had already estimated his performance, he couldn't help but feel happy when it was announced in public. Rocco. Arrive. Assessment score. With the announcement of the results, some people are happy while others are depressed, especially those who almost receive excellent evaluations. Promoting from third-class soldier to second-class soldier would take at least 3 to 4 months, and it is more likely to take more than 6 months according to the prescribed procedures. After all the readings were completed, more than 20 new recruits participated in the assessment, of which 18 passed, and 4 of them received excellent evaluations. Colonel Rode personally awarded each new recruit a sailor's shoulder badge, with 1 bar for third-class soldiers and 2 bars for second-class soldiers. "You are all excellent." After saying some encouraging words, Colonel Rod took out 2 prints and came to Fen Beauty in Loya to wear for them. "There is one more thing. This month, new recruits Fen Beauty and Loya have performed extremely well in their miscellaneous work, and we hereby award them the Miscellaneous Model Badge. A role model for miscellaneous tasks." The 2 of them had a small red flower on their chests. The new recruits looked at both of them in unison, their eyes full of surprise, almost writing the word "Nyobi" on their faces. The role model for miscellaneous tasks may sound insignificant and not very useful, but it is not an easy task to receive this recognition. After all, doing miscellaneous work is dirty and tiring, and few new recruits are willing to take it seriously, let alone to the extent that Colonel Rod can personally praise it. "I don't think even the toilet has been cleaned. Damn it, 2 tough guys." Pop pop pop. Applause thundered. "All right." Colonel Rod smiled and raised his hand to signal. "You should also be hungry. In the afternoon, the Monka military commander will take you to familiarize yourself with the new environment. Now disband in place." "Yes, Colonel Rod." The new recruits forcefully raised their chests and with a loud pop, their feet were clasped together. "Salute." Watching the school officials leave, the queue immediately relaxed, one by one excited and lively, staying outside the training ground. New recruits who did not participate in the assessment also rushed over. The newcomers from the same period rushed onto Loya and shouted excitedly, "Loya, you're so amazing. It's unbelievable that I received an excellent evaluation. This assessment is just for you to shine." Too long face. Loya's grades may not be the best, with several people not inferior to him, but his status as a pink and tender new recruit greatly blessed him, making him stand out. The new people are very proud. Although they are useless, Loya is strong. As contemporaries, they naturally feel honored, and in the future, Loya may still be able to protect them. After a while of fuss, Loya's stomach growled with hunger. "Let's go eat." "Huh, we'll make you a meal. I heard today's lunch was particularly sumptuous." Perhaps to celebrate, the restaurant's dishes were noticeably more sumptuous than before, with extra large chunks of sea animal meat. After eating and drinking, Loya returned to the dormitory with the support of the new people, and then locked herself in the toilet. I took a refreshing cold shower." Loya pressed her hands on the wash basin, gazing at herself in the mirror. "After a month of hard training, my thin and weak body has become significantly stronger, and the contours of my muscles are clearly visible throughout my body." The originally confused gaze exuded a sharp expression, which was a sharpness that could only be obtained through the grinding of sweat and pain. "It's completely different from before. He has really become stronger." Loya picked up the hair hoop and tied the pitch-black hair that was about to touch her shoulder behind her head, tying a short ponytail. No hair covering the face, the whole person's spirit and spirit look even more fierce, as if they are about to show their sharpness. This is exactly what he wants. He yearns to shine in the spotlight. Dong dong. The door is knocking. "Loya, the gathering time is approaching." "Got it." In the afternoon, Loya and the new sailors gathered on the playground. No need for training or miscellaneous tasks. Their task in the afternoon is to familiarize themselves with the responsibilities of formal sailors with the Monka military commander. In addition to regular training, they also have daily tasks such as regular patrols. Monka led everyone to another training ground in the branch, where many sailors were undergoing swordsmanship training. In the morning, there is still physical training, and in the afternoon, when there are no tasks, I will conduct special training here to learn combat skills. Munkai is explaining to the new people. Swordsmanship and physical skills are mandatory courses for all sea soldiers, and there are also some branch courses that will be divided into different types of troops based on the performance of the sea soldiers themselves. For example, if you have a good hand feel for firearms, you may be assigned to shooting units, as well as close combat assault units, artillery units, and so on. Some of the weak individuals who are poorly placed will be assigned to logistic support units, responsible for loading ammunition and other positions that do not require direct confrontation with the enemy, ensuring safety, but it is difficult to stand out. Hello, Loya. Fenbeauty leaned over to Loya and poked her with his elbow, whispering, "Which unit do you want to join?" "Me." Loya looked at the training ground, her eyes lit up. "I want to give it a try." End of this chapter.